Burn, baby, burn. The 1965 Watts riot. According to the Civil Rights Digital Library, the riot spurred from an incident on August 11, 1965, when Marquette Fry, a young African American motorist, was pulled over and arrested by a white California highway patrolman for suspicion of driving while intoxicated. The rioting claimed the lives of 34 people, resulted in more than 1,000 injuries and almost 4,000 arrests before order was restored. Now listen to this. And an official investigation prompted by then Governor Pat Brown found that the riot was a result of the Watts community's long-standing grievances and growing discontentment with the high employment rates, substandard housing, and inadequate schools. This part is good. Despite the reported findings of the Gubernatorial Commission following the riot, city leaders and state officials failed to implement measures to improve the social and economic conditions of African Americans living in the Watts neighborhood. Burn, baby, burn. And then there is the 1967 Detroit riots, according to History.com. In the early morning hours of July 23, 1967, one of the worst riots in U.S. history breaks out on 12th Street in the heart of Detroit's predominantly African American inner city. By the time it was quelled, 4 days later, by 7,000 National Guard and U.S. Army troops, 43 people were dead, 342 injured, and nearly 1,400 buildings have been burned. This so-called 12th Street riot was the worst U.S. riot in 100 years, occurring during a period of numerous riots in America. Now, check this out. A report by the National Advisory Commission on Civil Disorders, appointed by President Johnson, identified more than 150 riots or major disorders between 1965 and 1968. In 1967 alone, 83 people were killed and 1,800 were injured. The majority of them African Americans. And property valued at more than $100 million was damaged, looted, or destroyed. Burn, baby, burn. In response to aggressive and deadly actions by police on black men, there were the 1980 Liberty City riots in Miami, Florida, the 1992 Los Angeles, California riots, 1996 St. Petersburg, Florida burned, and in 2001 Cincinnati, Ohio had riots. And then there was, of course, the 2014 Ferguson, Missouri riots, and the 2015 Baltimore, Maryland riots. And after all of the riots and all of the burning, African Americans still are disproportionately represented in jails and prisons, have high levels of dropout rates, have significantly lower reading scores, have one of the highest level of poverty rates, and have disproportionate rates of domestic violence. Yes, protest is sometimes necessary to bring attention, but there must also be specific demands and identified strategies after the attention is received. One solution is to bring representatives from the entire community together to identify specific problems for that specific community. Committed citizens then develop specific goals to bring about measurable change. This takes at least a 3 to 5 year process. Stop playing. This simply does not have to be, or continue to burn, baby, burn, with the same results of death and injustice. I am the Dr. Mullen, Chris Herring.